Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming my August rooted video. Cannot believe we're almost in September. This year is just totally flying by. If you're not familiar with this series, you can check out, I'll link the playlist above for Rooted 2017. Basically, 2 years ago I moved from a big city to a small town, and I found it really challenging to get planted and rooted here in this little town. And so I chose rooted as my word for this year, and I've been checking in monthly with how it's going, the highs and the lows of kind of finding my footing here in this new place. So if you want to check it out, again, you can go check out that playlist. So this month has been great. This whole summer has been really good. Not a whole lot's changed. I've been kind of reflecting on like, why has this summer been so great and why has my outlook been so much more upbeat and positive? And the reality is, like, very little, if anything, circumstantially has changed. Like maybe 10%. There's been a 10% change. So like 90% of all the issues and junk and stuff that's been so rough for the past 2 years remains today. 90% is the exact same. But I think I, as a person, have changed so drastically, and my perspective has changed so drastically and so dramatically, and that has been the factor that has allowed me to really feel so much lighter and less burdened by the heaviness of this experience. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that growth and change, and I'm more excited about allowing that shift of perspective and that change to hopefully inspire me and help me help other people, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. So the first thing that I want to talk about this month, I have my notes on my phone, so if I'm glancing down, that's what I'm looking at, is my trip with Riley to Seattle for our 2-year anniversary. So last month I recorded my rooted video before the end of July, because we were heading out on this trip to Seattle, and our 2-year anniversary was on July 31st. And so I just want to quickly recap it. We had an amazing time in Seattle. We loved exploring the city. The weather was beautiful. We had such a great time together. And getting out of Gainesville and going somewhere different is such a healthy, awesome, positive thing for me. And Charlie, he's smelling one spot on the cushion like crazy. Stop it. Come here. So if you hear, like, hear that? Stop. Getting out of Gainesville and going somewhere different and new and interacting with people of culturally diverse backgrounds, interacting with a whole city full of interesting, different people, and getting to taste different kinds of food and see different kinds of scenery and all of that. It was just great. I always love getting out of the town, and it helps me feel like lighter, and it helps me feel like I can get a deep breath. Sometimes being here I feel a little bit suffocated, just to be honest, and so getting out of the city and going and seeing something new and different and remembering that there's still a whole big wide world even though I'm in like this little place has been really, is always great, and it was really awesome. So that was at the end of last month, but I just wanted to mention it because I didn't get to talk about it last month when I filmed my July rooted video, because we hadn't gone yet. Oh, and I vlogged every day of Seattle, so I will link my travel vlog playlist above if you want to go check it out. I have like a prepping for Seattle video, and then I have 4 Seattle vlogs from the days that we were there if you want to check out what we did. I also want to talk about friendship a little bit in this video, because friendship is something that I've been thinking about a lot this month, and I think I've learned so much through this experience of moving here about friendship and what it means to be a good friend and what it means to just have open arms toward other people, toward other women. I think my perspective has shifted on that in so many ways. So a little bit of backstory on the friendship situando here in Gainesville is basically that I have not had any friends, just to be blunt. I have gotten together with women who don't live here in town earlier this summer, which was really great, and there are a couple of people in town who I have connected with and that kind of thing, which has been great, but largely I do not have friends here. that's just the fact of it. So last year, however, when I was kind of before the dark days of like thinking that everything was terrible and I was gonna hate every second of living here, I was actively pursuing friendships before then, and there were a couple of women who I kind of clicked with and who we went and got coffee or, you know, whatever, did different things to get to know each other. And then I felt really dropped by them. And I know that it was not intentional. I know that it was circumstantial, like they were going through a big life change or moving to a different church, and so we didn't have that in common anymore, whatever. But at the end of the day, I felt really, really dropped, and it was particularly hurtful, or I don't want to say hurtful because I know that it wasn't aimed towards me, but it was still painful to me, regardless. Like, I'm not blaming them, if you know what I mean. I was hurting even more so because I had shared within our women's small group at church about how challenging it had been moving here, and I was the only one in the group, as always, who wasn't born and bred here or hadn't been here for years and years. Didn't have, you know, I don't have family in town here. I have Riley's family, but I don't have my side of the family in town. I don't have friends. I don't have a whole support system. And most, if not all, of the women in the group at the time when we were sharing like our life stories, and on the time when I was sharing mine, most, if not all, of the women like fully had a support system here. And I was kind of explaining like it's been so hard moving across the country, moving away from all my friends, all my family, trying to find my place in a town that's small, yada, 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 yada. And so then having had some friendships start to develop and then just feeling really dropped, like, oh, well, we're just doing this now, so, you know, and then no follow-up. I never heard from those people again. Several of them, like, I've never talked to since this, that, or the other had happened in their lives or whatever. And again, I'm not casting blame. I'm just explaining from my perspective how hard that was and how painful that was, to have vulnerably opened up and said, like, I'm really lonely. I don't have friends here. I'm trying to meet friends, to a group of women, and then have had no one make any efforts, and in fact several stop making efforts altogether. I don't know, it's hard, without giving you details of the situation, it's hard to fully explain kind of what had happened, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's been hurtful, it's been difficult, it's been challenging to not have friends, to say the very least. And all of that has caused me to really reflect on the times in my life where I have had a community, where I have had a group of people who I feel I can support and they're supporting me, like a supportive community. Times in my life where I felt like I've had a crew of women, and it's caused me to reflect on whether during those times I've really gone out of my way to welcome a newcomer. And sometimes the answer is yes, that I have, but many, many times the answer is no. That I, in those periods of my life, did not go out of my way to welcome someone new, just like these women last year certainly did not go out of their way to welcome me, and I was new. And so that has been really hard, but such an important lesson, I think, that I've learned as a person, as far as like, I have got to be really good at that. I really want to be the kind of person who goes out of my way to make sure people who are new feel really welcomed, because I did not feel that way. I felt the exact opposite for many, many months. And I think the disappointment that from those friendships, like not growing or existing or whatever, was a huge reason why I think I sunk into such a dark, lonely place last fall and winter, because I built up these expectations of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have these friends in town and all this, and then like just didn't happen. So anyway, what I'm saying is I've just been really a lot more thoughtful about this. And so to kind of bring that to the action step that I kind of want to talk about as part of this Rooted series, a few weeks ago, I got together with my pastor's wife, who I've talked about several times. I hosted a baby shower for her third little boy, who's so cute, back in, I think, April. I talked about that. She and I have been working together. I've been helping create the kids' curriculum and whatever, all that. Her name is Jenny, and she's awesome. And we have gotten much, much closer and got to know each other a lot more throughout this summer, which has been just so awesome. And a few weeks ago, we were getting together to talk about the kids' church and all that. And after we went through whatever we needed to go through, we were just chatting. And I, for the first time ever, really totally opened up to her and just told her, this has been, these 2 years have been the hardest 2 years of my entire life. I've never felt so miserable as I have in the past couple of years. I've never felt so lonely. I've never felt so just brought to the complete end of myself. And I talked about all of this in, I think, June, my June rooted video, where I pretty much was like sobbing through half the video. I'll link that above if you're interested. But basically I just like opened my heart up to her and just told her what I had not told her in the past. I had told her surface level, it's been challenging, but I really was like, listen, this has been the hardest thing I've ever gone through. I would love for no one else in the world to ever have to go through something like this, because it is awful, it is exhausting, it is defeating, deflating, it's just terrible. I don't want any other woman to have to go through this. And so she and I were talking, and she was like, what do you think about starting to think about a way where we could create some kind of like group or club or organization or some kind of something in town for people who are new to town, women who are new to town, to come to kind of get connected? And I was like, yes, yes. So we are in the very earliest stages of just starting to brainstorm that and just starting to figure out. And I've just been thinking, like, how would I even find these people? Like, I don't even know how. But anyway, so we are just really talking about that, of like, that would make all of this crap that I've been going through for the past 2 years of having like no friends and being completely lonely and miserable 100% worth it. If I could use that junk to become something good, where I'm in some way helping create a place where people could form those connections. And so people wouldn't have to feel like the way that I felt for 2 years, and people could more quickly find a crew or a tribe or a friend or people who they have things in common with or something. Like, that would be so, it fires me up to no end. And so that's something that hopefully this fall we can really talk more about. And it might just be starting small, but she knows like everyone in town. Like, that's not an exaggeration. She knows everyone in town, and she knows a lot of people who are new, and she knows all of that. And so using her networking, because I have none, I don't know anybody, and but she has 3 young children and I don't, and so using her networking and my time, I'm hoping that we're able to come up with something, some way of helping people get more connected, because gosh, that would just mean so much to me. So I'm hoping for that. Another thing that I mentioned briefly on my blog the other day, if you are one of my blog readers, I wrote a blog post called Assume She's Lonely, which I'll link above if you want to check it out. And basically it's just talking about how in the past I always basically assumed that most people were not lonely, most women I met were not lonely, and this experience has really taught me to assume that most people are lonely, because the reality is that there are so many more lonely people, lonely women, than I think I could have ever imagined. And through sharing openly in this Rooted series, I've gotten countless, just dozens and dozens and dozens of messages and emails and comments and letters from women who feel the exact same way as I do. So if you feel lonely, you are not alone in feeling that way. You're not like a weirdo. There's nothing wrong with you. It is such a more common feeling than I think I could have ever imagined. And at the end of that blog post, I talked a little bit about a new friend that I have made this month, and it's been such a gift to my heart and just so encouraging. So all that to say, a couple of weeks ago, toward the very beginning of August, it was a Saturday night, and Riley and I were just in the house, and I was journaling. And I was journaling, a lot of times when I journal kind of like as a prayer. And so I was journaling and writing like, God, I've tried to be patient. I have not been very good at it, but I need you to please bring me a friend. I am so tired of not having a friend. I I'm so exhausted of not having someone to do my life with, to call, to hang out with, to have a friend. Like, everybody needs a friend. And I just was journaling about this, and just like out of desperation, I think I literally wrote, God, I just beg you to please bring me a friend. I just need this. And so that was on a Saturday night. So Sunday morning, Riley and I get ready for church like we always do. We're driving to church. It's like a 2-minute drive. Everywhere we go in town is a 2-minute drive because it's quite small. And so we are driving to church, and we're pulling in our church parking lot, and our church, as with most things in town, is very small. It's like 20 people max on a Sunday, maybe a little more than that, but not usually. And so anyway, we pull in the church parking lot, and there's a new car, like a car that does not, like when we pull in, we can immediately say, the so-and-sos are here, the so-and-sos are here, the so-and-sos are here, because it's such a small church. And we pull in, and there's a car, and I'm like, whose car is that? And I started cracking up, because I'm like, the church I used to work at in Austin had a huge parking lot with so many, like hundreds of cars. Like, I could not have told you who was or was not at church, but we pull into this church, and I immediately knew there was a new family or someone new at church. And Riley was like, I don't know. So we walk in, and church starts at 10, and we probably walked in at 9:57. We're not usually the earliest. So we got in we sat down, the service started. Well, after the service, I had a chance to really look around the room, and I noticed that there was a young couple, a man, and I was assuming his wife, and she was holding a baby. And so I thought, oh, I need to go introduce myself to them. So I'm thinking they probably are the new car people. So I walked up to them, I said, hey, I'm Blair, met them, we shook hands, and I just sat down and started talking to them, and we ended up talking for like over an hour and a half, like for a very long time. And the wife and I have like 100,000 things in common, so much in common. We both blog, we both are into Young Living essential oils, we both majored or studied Spanish. I actually ended up minoring in it, but she majored in Spanish in college, and I minored in it, but I studied abroad in Spain, so we were talking about that, and we were just like all these things. We dated our husbands long distance, and we had so much in common, so we were just talking and talking and talking and talking, and I asked her about her baby and when they got married, and we talked for all this time, and it was so great. And I was like praising God that whole conversation, like, thank you. I know this is such an answer to prayer, because I have met a lot of great women over the past couple of years, and there's been a couple who I have clicked with, but very few, like 2. And so having someone walk into my life in such a like straightforward way, like she just was at church on Sunday, who I clicked with so much and who we had so much in common, I was so excited. And so I invited she and her husband and their baby over for dinner that following Friday night. So this was a Sunday. That following Friday they came over. They ended up staying for like 6 hours, and we talked and talked and talked, and we're planning to get together this week and all of this. And so I'm just so thankful. She said that on after we met on the way home from church, I said to Riley, I'm pretty sure I just met my new best friend. But I obviously wasn't gonna say that to her, because like stage 5 clinger alert, like that's a little aggressive. But I just said to Riley, like, I was just so excited that I had met someone I got along so well with. Well, when she came over here on Friday, a couple Fridays ago, we were just sitting on the couch, and she was like nursing her baby, and we're just chatting, and the boys were talking and whatever. And she said, you know, I told my husband on the way home from church after I met you that I think I had just met my best friend. And she looked kind of like, I don't know, she wasn't like embarrassed, but she just was like kind of like saying like, I know that's kind of weird, but like we have so much in common. I started cracking up, and I was like, I said the exact same thing. So I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful. I feel like the drought is over, and I'm starting to find some relationships in town that are not just surface level, and people that I really could like see myself really having like a deep relationship with. So that is like something I'm super thankful, and I'm hoping that with her, she's not from here either. She's not from town. So someone who is from out of town who gets it, and we have like been joking about like we never thought we would end up here, and we've just been like texting and talking, and it's been so nice. It's so nice to meet someone who's not from here, who like gets how crazy some of this stuff is. Like, brief short story, this town has nothing to do. I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being mean, I'm not being pessimistic. There is nothing to do. You can go to Walmart, you can go to McDonald's, like Sonic. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. And the city development committee or whatever it is has been talking about building a farmer's market downtown and like doing it up like a really cool farmer's market. And I am like, so obviously I'm so excited about that. And so I was talking with a woman in town about it, and she's older than me, and I was talking about, oh my gosh, it's gonna be this farmer's market, it's gonna be so awesome, something to do, it'll be so great, and get fresh fruits or whatever. And she was like, Gainesville's finally growing. It is so sad. It is so sad that this town is growing. And it just floored me. I'm thinking, this town has not a lot going on. In fact, there is a huge drug problem in town, huge. I keep hearing these figures and facts that it's like the #1 distributor of meth in the country or some crazy things. Like there are issues, major issues. And also there's nothing to do. And so there's something positive, like a farmer's market. And there are some people who feel like that's sad because the city is growing. I respect that we have a difference of opinion. I don't understand that. I don't, especially because of what it is. Like, this is not like a strip club, it's a farmer's market. But there's a little story for you of like, it can just be so, those are the moments where I just am like, oh my gosh. I don't know how I'm gonna make it here because sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. But I know I'm not the only one because I've heard from a lot of you who are in similar locations. So I would love to hear from you. What's the craziest thing you've heard like that? Like, is your town getting a farmer's market and people are upset because the town's growing too fast? Or something else? I would love to hear. That would make me really happy, actually, to hear from you. The last thing I want to talk about that happened this month is that I got baptized. So I'm gonna pop in, my sister-in-law took like a cell phone video. So I'm just gonna put that over while I talk. So basically I was baptized as a little kid, and it was not my choice, and I don't remember it, and I've been toying around with the idea and praying through the idea of getting baptized as an adult, as a personal choice and declaration of faith, and I decided to go ahead with it. And Riley is the one who baptized me, and it is one of the most special, sacred, beautiful moments of my whole life, and I loved it so much. And it was such a perfect, I know it's not the end of the summer yet, but it was kind of the perfect wrap up of this summer, which has just been so full of renewal and change and positive forward movement. And it was such a special marker for that, to think that I got to get baptized in that time. And I'll always remember kind of that as a marker for August of 2017. So that was my August. It was a good month. For sure. It was really a positive month. One thing that I'm really focusing on moving into this fall, which again, I understand that there's like legitimate dates for when seasons begin, but I think we can mostly agree that most of us think of summer as June, July, and August, and then fall as September, October, and November. Whether that's like official or not, I understand that's not totally official. So I'm thinking of fall starting around September. I always think of September as like the new January, where you kind of like reset again. For the rest of the year, the school year, whatever you want to say. But I've been thinking a lot about restoration and being restored. The truth is that these past years have stolen a lot from me, have taken a lot from me, a lot of joy from me. They've affected me in so many far-reaching ways, and I have just been thinking a lot about this fall, really claiming that back, and choosing restoration and allowing the Lord to restore all that junk, restore me to wholeness and to fullness again. And so that's going to look a few different ways. I think really focusing on helping in the community, creating some kind of hospitality welcome, some kind of group or something. To any degree that I'm able to do that would be beautiful. So that's one thing that I'm kind of thinking about. Physically, the past couple of years physically have been a joke. Like, I've worked out some, I've eaten well some, but largely that has been the literal last thing on my priority list. I think sometimes when you're so consumed with all of those heavy feelings, like, you don't want a salad. Well, I have not wanted a salad, and the thought of like going and working out has just like not sounded great at all. So I really have been thinking this fall about like, let's get back into that, like to whatever degree I can. Maybe going to yoga a couple of days a week, or maybe just taking intentionally long walks, or both, or running again, whatever. Like, I think I want to get back kind of into that kind of thing and take care of my body better than I have in the past couple of years, because it has not been the best. And then continuing to just work on settling into our home, just where we've finally started buying, well, I don't want to say finally. We've done some things in our home over the past couple of years, but as I mentioned last month, it has not been a priority because I've largely been in denial. And so we've really started kind of cracking down and moving things around in our home and painting and buying furniture, and I just want to continue doing that this fall. So I don't know all the things that September or the rest of the year have in store, but I've just definitely been kind of meditating and thinking on the word restore or restoration as this rooted journey kind of continues, because I think there's a lot has been kind of, a lot of the joy of life in general has been stolen from the past 2 years out of just feeling just feeling really sad. So that's that. As always, I would love to hear from you. I can't explain to you, when I get emails from y'all and letters and all of that, it is like the biggest joy of my life to get to connect with people who know how I'm feeling or who have gone through something similar, and just getting to share stories. And when I get to read your story and your journey and what you're going through, even if things are still a mess and you're still figuring it out, like, I am right there with you. I love to hear that. So if you want to share any of that, I would love for you to comment below. And like I said earlier, I'd also love if you would comment below if you're living in a small town, or if you're just living somewhere that you'd never expected to live. What's the craziest like interaction or thing that has happened in town? I would say the farmer's market was one of the weirder ones that I've had. Although I often joke with my friends who are out of town, I'm like, listen, I could write a whole book. I have had some strange times, but you know, it's all coming together for good, and I hope that I'm able to help some other people feel more rooted in town. So thank you guys so much for watching and for following along with my journey and with my story. I hope you're having an awesome end of your August, and I hope you're looking forward to September. Please let me know if you have had a word for this year, or a resolution, or whatever, how that's going for you. And otherwise, I will see you guys at the end of September. Bye. You wanna come say hi? Say I'm a baby. But not forever, because I don't like being a baby forever. Charlie, look. Everybody loves you. He's over.